Welcome, friends! It is I, Hi-Rez LostScarf, and it's time for the Short Smite Beginner Guide to Khepri. That's right, the love bug is here to give you a hug, and it's gonna happen a lot. He loves hugs. So Khepri is a really good guardian in this game, and he's very much worth learning, so we're gonna go over, of course, his abilities, his class and roles, tips and combos, the items you should consider getting on him as far as stats go, and of course we'll summarize everything to give you a good idea on how he works. Of course, these guides are for beginners, so you understand how he works, so you can fight him better, play as him better. Just consider playing him, he's just a really good god to play as. Advanced and expert players, there isn't much here for you, you should know all this already, but in case there's anything you feel that wasn't elaborated on enough, you can say so in the comments, give people more information to read, and that's going to be really good. So now, let's get going. Khepri's abilities. First up is his passive, Fortitude. Now the way this works is every 5 seconds Khepri gives everyone 2% max HP shield, that means based on the god themselves, to himself and allies in this aura. It goes up to 10% HP maximum, so that's pretty good there. It lasts 15 seconds if you're away from Khepri, and when he's in battle, it ticks every 10 seconds instead of every 5 seconds. First ability, Abduct. This is a dash attack that pierces minions, grabs the first god it hits. Khepri silences the god he grabs, and he slowly pulls them back with him. They can still do basic attacks, but they can't cast out. Second ability, Rising Dawn. This is a slow-moving skill shot that does DOT damage to everything it hits. It debuffs enemy protections and reduces the damage they dish out for 3 seconds. Third ability, Solar Flare. This is a ranged AoE attack that takes a moment to attack. It does damage and roots enemies. And lastly, his ultimate, Scarab's Blessing. This is a ranged ability that gives an ally a movement speed buff for 5 seconds. If they die during the buff, they are revived and brought back to where Khepri is with some health. He can also cast it on himself. Class and roles. Khepri is a guardian, which means he's a very tanky god with a lot of CC to save his teammates and gives enemies headaches with all that CC. His grab and root can set up kills, his passive allows for aggression, Rising Dawn helps with clear and team fights, and his ultimate can allow for tower dives or saving teammates in very bad situations. Now when it comes to his beginner role, it is support. Straight out, that is the thing to do. Khepri is a fantastic support, he can be played aggressive or defensive in dual lane, his passive allows for early aggression and survival, his root and grab can lead to lots of kills or saves. His skill shot helps with clearing and making life easier in dual lane, and his ultimate allows for tower dives or life saves. Teamfights are about the same. You can cause a lot of trouble and save lives all game. Don't forget the ward though. Tips and combos. So first up has to do with his passive, and that is, when it comes to that passive, you want to kind of engage in combat only when you need to at first in a way. That way you can keep that 10% HP at all times. Now of course, you're just laning, you're fine with that, you're just going to keep it on your buddy. But the idea is you want to have that 10% HP as long as you can, because then if you go for an engagement, you'll have a lot of HP to stay alive, and if you get in a bad situation, you'll have enough to maybe survive the situation. Next tip has got to be grabs and roots are great for getting kills or for saving teammates, just putting that in there again, because that's important to remember. Now this next one's an interesting tip, that is, Rising Dawn can be used on Gold Fury and Fire Giant. It does affect them, not a lot, but it still does affect them. Next one has to be, Rising Dawn is huge in teamfights, it just reduces damage, reduces enemy protections. That is a big thing. If you can get a bunch of people in that, that is going to cause a lot of trouble. And lastly, the ultimate can be useful for tower dives or saving teammates, especially if you're behind a wall. This is a nice thing. You can be behind a wall, save someone with your ultimate, then he come back to you, and while you're behind a wall, so only enemies with like leaps will be able to catch you, so that's pretty good there. Now as far as combos go, it's an interesting mix of your 1, 2, and 3. You can do a bunch of different mixes with them, but I'll just say 1 because it's a pretty solid one. That is 3, 1, 2. You root a bunch of enemies, or just one enemy at distance, then you grab them to pull them to your allies, and then you use your 2 to weaken them for your allies to beat the crap out of and kill them. Though you can do 1, 3, 2 as well, and the reason why you do 1, 3, 2 is you have enough range to grab them first, then after you grab them, you can root them in place, and then do your 2. That's another way you can do it as well. It really depends on distance, how far are they for a grab and how far are they for a root, because root has a longer range than your grab. Purchases for Khepri. Now when it comes to Khepri, there's only 3 stats you really need, and that is cooldown, protections, and health. That is it. Khepri is an annoying machine. You want him to be alive long enough to do things, so health and protections, but you want to be able to cast so often that you can just cause trouble the whole game and resurrect people as often as possible, so max your cooldowns. That's all you got to think about, just be really hard to kill and be annoying. Be annoying the entire game, and those 3 stats are all you need to do it. Now when it comes to actives, that's really just building around your team, whatever your team needs. Do they need Shell? Do they need Team Sprint? Do they need Weakening Curse against the enemy? Enfeebling Curse against the enemy? Maybe a Girdle for some reason? Whatever your team needs, that is what your active should be. Beads, if you're getting over-focused, maybe, but for the most part, you should be in the front and in the back line a little bit. It's kind of odd how Khepri is. You can be in the front, cause a lot of trouble. You can be in the back and save people. It really depends on the situation, what you're doing. But with enough cooldown and protections, you can do whatever the hell you want, and you can do whatever actives you think you need for your team. In conclusion, Khepri is the love bug. You want to hug as many enemy gods as possible so your teammates can really show them how they feel. As long as you build tanky and learn to land your abilities and time your ultimate right, no one dies in your team and everyone dies on their team. So there you go, that right there is the guide for Khepri. It's a really good god here. He's a little bit harder than some of the other Guardians because of the fact he can't do a lot of damage, but he can cause a lot of mayhem once you have him built up, and he can just be really fun to play. And oh my god, you can make people hate you so much. They hate you so much if you really know how to play Khepri. He's a very fun god to play. As always, these guides are really good to share, that way more people learn gods in this game. Khepri's a good god, you should really share it around so people understand how Khepri works so they can try him out, or they understand better how to fight him, how they should be dealing with him because of the things that he can do. Learning about more things in this game just makes you a better player, and the more players that are good at the game, well, the better it is for all of us, because we'll have better opponents and better teammates, so that's really the big goal of these guides. So there you go, that is the guide for Khepri. Next up is going to be Kukulkan. That'll be a lot of fun to do. He has the lowest skill floor in this game. He is the easiest god to learn how to play, but he is not the easiest one to master in my opinion, so he should be a lot of fun to go over. But that right there is the guide. I had fun making it, I hope you had fun watching it and learning from it, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.